Hello everyone. Today I am going to perform Johann Sebastian Bach's Goldberg Variations. And before I do that, I would like to introduce it a little bit so that everyone would have a concept of how the work is like. The Goldberg Variation has become an iconic monument in Western history. On one level, it's simply a beautiful keyboard work, and on another, it's a rubric cube of invention and architecture. First, I would like to talk a little bit about its history. Why is it called the Goldberg Variations? Bach wrote the music to soothe the sleepless night of one Count Canceling, who asked his private harpsichordist, Johann Gottlieb Goldberg, to perform the variations. When Bach wrote the variations, Johann Gottlieb Goldberg was only 13 years old. He apparently was a very gifted kid. He was a student of Bach's son. So basically, the work was originally performed in order to help somebody to fall asleep. Even though the music will not help me fall asleep because there's just so much going on in this piece. The Goldberg variations were originally written for the harpsichord, but in modern recordings, you will hear about a 50-50 split between piano recordings and the more traditional harpsichord recordings. The whole piece takes about an hour to perform, and it's certainly a very long piece to perform and memorize on stage. What makes it so long is the different elements in this piece. As we all know, the piece is a theme and variation, so you will have a theme, a main tune of any length, and then a bunch of subsequent repeats of the same thing. That's basically what a theme and variation is, but the catch is that the repeats are not identical. The repeats take the original theme and mix it up a little bit. For example, there might be changes in harmony, melody, rhythm, tempo, and meter. Basically, any other change will be used, depends on the composer's imagination. So the composer can get very creative with it, and the Goldberg variation is a great example of that. Now, I'm going to briefly introduce the different elements in this piece. It will take so long to explain everything that happens in this piece, but to make it short, the piece is made of an initial aria, followed by 9 canons, 9 variations in the style of arabesque, 3 Baroque dances, 1 fugatta, 1 French overture, and 2 more arias. First, we will have an initial aria, whose bass line is going to be repeated in the upcoming variations. It's a very lovely and charming aria to begin the whole set. The next important element of the set is going to be the canons. A canon is a form and compositional technique based on the principle of strict imitation, in which an initial melody is imitated at a specified time interval by one or more parts, either at the unison, which means the same pitch, or at some other pitch. So now let's talk about the canons in this work. Every third variation is written in canon form, which we've talked about before. So that means variation number 3 is a canon. So is number 6, number 9, and so on. But that would be too easy for Bach. Bach needed to add an additional spin to these canons. Canon number 3 is a unison canon, meaning the imitation part starts on the same note. But in canon number 6, the imitating part ascends a step so that it repeats a second above the original tune. And then canon number 9 repeats a third above, and so on, until it reaches an interval of a ninth. We can really hear how Bach is so creative with those canon variations. He sometimes even put the imitation part upside down in order to make it sound more impressive. And then there are some variations written in the style of arabesque. Variation 5, the 8th, 11th, 14th, 27th, 20th, 23rd, 26th, 29th. Those are usually virtuosic pieces, and they are very fun to listen, but difficult to play because the piece is written for harpsichord. Usually harpsichord for two keyboards, one on the top and one on the bottom. And that means when playing it, we will encounter a lot of hand crossing, and that makes the piece very awkward to manage. For example, the 5th variation. This movement features hand crossing. The left hand is constantly swinging back and forth over the right hand. When you hear it later, I would like to remind you to pay attention to the unchanging bass line from the area at the beginning and have an idea of how far Bach has come using the same bass line. When we get to the middle of the set, we will have a French overture. Variation number 16 is a French overture, and it's unique within the composition because it's the only variation written in this style, such that it feels like a clear turning point in the music. It opens with a strong G major chord, followed by dotted rhythms, meaning long, short, long, short. The main atmosphere of the set is major, means happy and playful. However, there are 3 minor variations in the set. The reason I think you need to pay special attention to these minor areas because they're simply just so beautiful. It's been described as having a dark passion and as being the emotional climax of the variations. And it also has extraordinary chromatic texture. Finally, before we go back to the tune of the initial area, we have the 30th variation, which is a quolibet. A quolibet means multiple melodies at once, like a canon. The difference is that these were usually popular melodies of the day and was intended as a joke tune. After such a long journey, we will hear the bass line and the initial tune again, but this time, most performers will add more emotional feelings to it. Because when we hear finally, after the long journey, when we finally hear the main tune, we probably is going to have a feeling of being back home. Above are some brief introductions about the Goldberg variations. I choose to play this piece because I can feel every emotion in this piece. However, performing this piece is a very big challenge for me. The large amount of changes, the intertwining of the voices is very easy to mess up. So I need to practice managing it so it doesn't become a mess. I will definitely put a lot of efforts when I perform it. I hope this concert is going to be a great experience for both you and me. Thank you.